She was a young woman with much to learn. Kitty's Uncle Frank, her father's brother, walked into the kitchen. "Hello, Lil off again," he said, giving Kitty a smile. He stood behind her aunt, his voice huskier than normal as he held back his true feelings. He puffed and sucked on his pipe. Kitty noticed a twitch shimmy down the right-hand side of his face, an emotional habit Kitty often witnessed during times when he became stressed or upset. Kitty leaned forward and gave him a gentle kiss on the cheek. She had his side of the family genes when it came to their tall and trim athletic build, chestnut hair, and grey-blue eyes. Eyes which glistened when he turned to look at her, framed with damp lashes. Kitty watched her uncle struggle with her decision to leave. "Why are they sending you to the middle of England when there are places to be filled in this area is beyond me. Got everything?" he asked, glancing around the room. "Yes, Uncle. You know, Lil, she's panic-packed for me. I've even got a kitchen sink in there," Kitty said, and pointed to his old kit bag sitting to the right of the back door. "You take care of that lot. It cost me a week's wages," her uncle teased. Kitty sent a wide smile his way. Despite his teasing, she was aware he wasn't referring to his kit bag from when he had served in the British forces. Her new uniform and shoes had cost him a lot more than a week's wages. Every payday, her uncle had taken great pride in placing funds into her savings jar, a project she'd undertaken since she'd seen the poster recruiting Red Cross nursing trainees. Her meagre wages from washing up at the local holiday camp, a temporary base given over for the kinder transport children, would never have purchased the many dresses, aprons and caps she needed, plus her living allowance for the years she volunteered. Her uncle had found her the job for the year leading up to her leaving. The place had been transformed into a refugee camp for the children while she worked there. And when on duty, Kitty witnessed the sadness of the young Jewish refugees brought to the town from Germany via Holland. The first group of children had arrived the previous December, and they had made Kitty look at her life a little closer. She intended to leave her family willingly, but these little ones had been sent away by parents for their own protection, not knowing if they'd ever meet again, and it made Kitty want to do more than just work in the kitchen washing their dishes. At the end of each working day, she read to them, despite knowing many couldn't understand a word. She would hold them close when they cried and whisper words of comfort, just as Lil had when Kitty was missing her own parents. One of the matrons there told her she had a kind heart and that she definitely had a future in caring for others. She had pushed Kitty to recognise what she could offer others, and now the day had arrived to prove herself. "Time to go," she said, and embraced Lil and her uncle once again. "Be safe, Kitty. Come home to us when you can," her aunt said, sniffling back a river flow of tears. Her uncle puffed even harder on his pipe, his hands gripping it so tightly his knuckles turned white. The emotional tension in the air was overwhelming, and it hurt Kitty to witness her family in such distress. But she wanted to commit to her war work and say she had at least tried. She often confessed to her friend Helen how she struggled with the way her aunt and uncle suffocated her with their overprotective love. Now a flash of guilt for those thoughts washed over her. She shook them off and widened a smile of courage. With one last glimpse around the kitchen, Kitty walked through into the front room and stepped out into Hamilton Street. The place where she'd played as a child, gathered with school friends after chores, and celebrated many community moments with the other 40-plus families who lived in the small, terraced railway houses. She would always be grateful to her aunt and uncle for moving into the house. It made sense. Her uncle had stepped into her father's job on the quay, and the house was reallocated to them. Plus, it was a place they felt Kitty needed to remain for stability, with a school a few feet away at the end of the street. Residents stood or sat on their polished steps, waiting to cheer her on her way, much as they'd waved other children away to war, or mourned their deaths together, just as they had supported her family when her cousin died in June.